This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. This is a finance show for small business owners about money, how it works in our business and personal lives, and how we can build wealth to be financially independent. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread. Today, we continue with our series on growing the value of your business. In the last few episodes, we've spent some time going over strategic planning. And at the beginning of this little small mini-series, I provided an acronym with multiple letters, and the acronym was VMOSTA. And today, we've arrived at the O on this acronym. So the V stood for vision, the M stood for mission, the VS we dealt with last time, values, and S was a SWOT analysis. Today we're going to dive deep into the O on this acronym. So today we're going to discuss setting strategic objectives. In our last episode, we spent some time in detail going through the SWOT analysis. And you may remember that the SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And if you went through this analysis, by now you have some very good idea on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as it relates from the interior or looking inside of your organization as the owner. And it also, you're looking at your organization from the exterior as the consumer will see your business. But now we've come to the point where we have to get crystal clear about the direction we're heading. See, in our mission, we talked a lot about philosophy. In our values, we talked about what we want our company to look like to the marketplace. It has our names on it typically, or has our life, blood, sweat, tears into the business. So our values are important. Then we started digging down into the SWOT, which is where we're currently at the present state. Now in the objectives, setting the objective strategy, we now have a chance to analyze how are we going to impact the future of our business. More specifically, what are the objectives of our business? We spend a lot of time talking philosophically. Now the rubber has to hit the road, as my dad would say. Son, rubber's got to hit the road. Here we go. According to Webster's dictionary, objective is defined as a thing aimed at or sought. And then he clearly states a goal. So Webster says an objective is something that we aim at or something we seek, but we kind of condense it down to the term goal, a goal. Whenever I deal with clients, whether it be business owners or individuals who are seeking financial help, I often ask the question, what is the goal? And what I've discovered year after year after year is that is a hard question for many people to answer. Sure, we have an idea on the direction we want to go. We have an idea about what our goal could be, but seldom do we business owners establish proper business goals. Perhaps one of the largest single impacts objectives and goal setting has is it helps us, the business owner, it helps our team, and it helps the business identify a point of focus in the future, a sometimes single point of focus in the future. So today I want to deal with objectives. And if you want to overlay the word goal on top of that, either way, it's a synonymous word. It'll work either way. So I want to deal with those today. And I want to outline a couple of different areas for us to talk about. So the first thing is we're going to look at the time frame of setting objectives. You know, many times business owners want to look years down the road, or we're so busy in our business that we're just looking at tomorrow. I've been guilty of both. I'm either looking at tomorrow saying, man, I can't even think about next week. Or I'm looking saying, in 10 years, I would like to accomplish this. Or in 15 years, or in 25 years, we talk about the long term. But oftentimes, folks take the extreme. We look so far out, we look so far in. But yet, when we're dealing with strategic planning, and that's what we're talking about through this mini series, my challenge to you is look about 3 to 5 years down the road. Now, the smaller the business or the business that is in its infancy, we're probably going to even be less than 3 years. But we never look further than 5 years. In fact, I heard a podcast the other day about why you can throw the 5-year business plan out the window. And there's a lot of truth to that. So to me, I like to look about 3 years down the road. The reason why I say 3 is because, 36 months is going to fly by like it's just unbelievable how fast time flies. Tempus fugit is the Latin term, means time's flying. It just seems like, man, the older I get, the faster time just moves by. And 3 years are going to sail by so quick. But it's been my experience in a 5-year plan or a 6-year plan, too many circumstances involved. Crap, even in a 3-year plan, too many things happen. So my challenge to us is let's not get much further than about 3 to 5 years. Like I said, if you have a small business, think even shorter than 3 years. If you're a mature business, you've been around a little while, you've got a good customer base, you've got some good product, the service is nailed down, you may go out 5 years. Specifically, I look at a 3-year plan. We did this a couple of months ago now, middle of the years when we do our planning for my company, Heritage Investors. We're a comprehensive wealth management firm, as you know. And we were doing our planning, and I use a 3-year time frame. I look back at my planning from 3 years ago, and it's amazing how much changed in that 3-year time frame. Now, was the setting the goals 3 years ago for naught? No. With some areas of our goal setting, we far superseded it. In other areas of our goal setting, we didn't hit it. So to me, 3 years is important. And while I'm on to the number 3, whenever we're setting our objectives or setting our goal, only use 3 goals. Now, you may say, Justin, that sounds kind of crazy. Have you ever heard of the power of 3? Think about it for a second. The number 3 is just about everywhere. It's not accidental. I'm going to read this from one of the sources out and about on youcando.com, talking about the power of 3. And on this particular blog, I thought they summarized a lot of different areas. And they said, just think about the fairy tales you grew up with. Goldilocks and the 3 bears, the 3 little pigs, the 3 blind mice. And let's not forget religious fables and religious literature, talking about the 3 wise men or the 3 stooges. I don't know how the 3 stooges got put in with religious fables, or the 3 musketeers. This article goes on to say, the rule of 3 follows the brain's mapping rules, which makes things easier to remember. Once the pattern is formed, the brain can easily digest the information and process it to memory. So the power of 3. Now that I've said this, as you read something, pay attention to how many times an author will reiterate a particular key point that they want us to gather. Or whenever you hear a speaker next time, think about how the speaker will repeat a particular key point 3 times. Maybe you try this. Maybe you meet somebody for the first time. Today I met a Steve. And when I met Steve, I say, well, nice to meet you, Steve. And I use their name 3 times, and now I haven't forgot that I met Steve this morning. And so who did I meet this morning? Steve. All I did was say Steve's name 3 times, and you automatically knew that I met with Steve this morning. It's the way our brains work. So whenever we set goals, we don't want to set any more than 3 goals. Sure, maybe ourselves, the business owners, we can see 37 different things we need to improve on, but if we set 3 specific key objectives, then our team, our managers, our customers, our suppliers, whomever we're dealing with, they will be able to remember that goal or that Steve. So when we're setting those 3 goals, my rule is 1 must be financial. One of our goals has to be financial. So many times businesses will focus on things like operations. We'll say, man, we need to hire 37 new people this week, or we need to create 4 new strategic initiatives, or we need to develop a marketing plan. But one of the goals must be financial in nature. The old saying, water takes a path of least resistance. We're trying to force our business into an area where we can achieve the objective. Well, one of the objectives has to be financial in nature. So it may be we want to grow our revenues by 3% in this particular division. That could be a very strategic goal. The other thing we're going to add to our goals is we're going to employ the SMART filter. S-M-A-R-T, SMART filter. Now, this term is not unusual. I've heard it since when I was in high school. I read this. And where the SMART filter came about, to the best we can figure out, was in 1981, an issue of Management Review by George Duran actually used the term. And the principle advantage to this particular SMART filter was it helps to better understand and know what has been done. Now, many people associate SMART criteria, the SMART, with Peter Drucker's management by objectives concept. Maybe that's where it came from. No one can really pinpoint it. But just because we don't know who made the design of the SMART filter doesn't mean it's not relevant today. To the contrary. So SMART, for those of you who've never heard of it, the S stands for specific. Specific. You have to have very specific objectives. The more clear your goals can be, the more likely you are to achieve those goals. So, for example, many times people come into my office and they'll say, hey, Justin, I want to retire at age 60 or age 65 or age 50 or whatever the age is. And I'll say, great. And that is the extent of their goal. So what my job is to help them get super specific with that. So I typically will say, well, paint for me your retirement. What's it look like? And the older I get, I used to think, retirement was going and sitting on the beach and reading books. Not anymore. My mom's retired. That lady stays busier than I can even imagine. And she's out helping people. I have many retirees who are no longer going to the office or going to a job or working in their business. Now they're doing philanthropic things. Now they're working in charities and traveling the world. I have a client who's in a mission trip. He wants to go on a missions trip once a year on a 3-4 month missions trips to help people at orphanages around the country and around the world. So that is a goal. So I'll say, just talk to me about your retirement. Justin, I want to be 60 years old and I want to travel the world. Great. Where are you going to go? Okay. I want to go to the Philippines. I want to work in an orphanage. Great. How much is it going to cost us to do this? Well, I don't know. Okay. Let's figure that out. And how many years are you going to travel around the world? I don't know. Okay. How are we going to get there? Are we going to take a cruise over there on a boat, or are we going to fly in the airplane? Well, we're going to fly. Okay. First class, second class. I always say first class, second class. You may say first class coach or private plane. So the more specific we can get in our goals, the more apt we are to achieve those goals. So number one, we got to be very specific. Number two, we've got to be able to measure it. That's the M part of it. SM, specific and measurable. We have to have a method to measure our progress. We have to have a method in our objective to see if we're close to achieving our objective, if we're on track for success. So if we say, you know what, I want to have market penetration of a new product line into the X area of the market, well, how are you going to track that? A goal has to be measurable. You have to be able to look back and say, we are on track to hit our goal. So one of my goals is I want to have a certain number of social media followers within the Financially Simple brand. That's my goal. I'd like to break 100,000 followers per channel. That's my specific goal. So how do we measure it? Well, it's easy with social media. We can look at the stats. We could take in some of these channels, they don't have a performance or a stat measurement, but we can look at on a month-to-month basis how many followers or people did we gain or lose. But it's measurable nonetheless. So we get the SMA. So now we're in the A area of the SMART goal setting, and that is assignable. You have to know who is going to be responsible for each individual action. And we're going to talk about actions here in the next upcoming episodes. But in order for a goal or an objective to actually come to fruition, we have to be able to specify who is responsible for it. I heard something years ago, and I always butcher this saying, but the saying often goes, without any responsibility, there is no accountability. Or you can reverse it the other way. Without any accountability, there's no responsibility. In other words, if you leave the action up to anyone, then no one's going to do it. So a SMART goal or a SMART objective has to be assignable. Then it has to be in the R section. It has to be realistic. It can't be absurd. Now, do I think that we can grow to 100,000 followers per social media channel? Yes, I do. Can we achieve it in the T, the SMART, the time related that I've set out? Well, if I said I want to receive 100,000 followers on my social media channels by tomorrow, well, that's probably not going to happen. But, if we're lagging about 20,000 or so followers on Twitter, and we've done that in about 9 months, then exponential returns could say that, we may break 100,000 followers by the end of this year, calendar year 2018, as I record this. Maybe that is possible.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
So every one of our goals have to meet the SMART criteria. They have to be specific. You have to be able to measure it, and you have to assign it to somebody. Maybe it's yourself, but it has to be assigned. It has to be realistic. It can't be absurd. You can't say, I'm going to receive 100,000 followers by tomorrow. That's not possible. We also have to have time attached to the goal. Whenever we're dealing with objectives, we've already dealt with the fact that there has to be a time frame. We're looking at them for about 3 years or so. We only set 3 goals, no more, because we're going to use the power of 3 to our advantage. But one of the goals are going to be financial in nature. And we're going to use SMART filters to help us with our objectives or our goals. But we can't stop there. We have a few more things we have to deal with when we're setting objectives. The objective must align with our vision, our mission, our values, and the SWOT analysis we dealt with. All that work we've done for the last 3, 4, 5 episodes we've talked about now comes to play where we cannot set objectives that are in competition or in contradiction to our, let's just use an easy one, to our values. You know, the way I look at it, and I'm actually going to record a short personal values go live Facebook event today. We try to do a go live event on Facebook 3 times a week where people ask questions and I answer the questions. So maybe you're interested in another way to ask me a question. You say, hey, Justin, I'd really like to hear you answer this. Then maybe join me on Facebook Live and drop me a line and I'll try to answer it there through a Q&A. But let's say my values. One of my values is turn the turtle. Turn the turtle. I can remember, actually I have 2 turtle quotes. One is turn the turtle. The other one is, if you see a turtle on top of a fence post, it did not get there by himself. So somebody had to put the turtle there. Those are just 2 quotes that I say. But turn the turtle. We were driving home from church probably a month and a half ago. And during the summertime here in Tennessee, these little box turtles, they start crawling everywhere, seeking high ground to lay their eggs. And we were driving home, and this poor little turtle, little box turtle, full grown, they're maybe 3.5, 4, 5 inches long, not very big. It was stuck upside down the road. And I didn't see it at first. My little girl saw it, so I stopped, went back, and turned the turtle over. It could not get turned over. In fact, the road was so hot, its little feet were burned. So we took it home and did some little bandage work for it, let him heal up, fed him some fun little doodads, and my little Jude enjoyed it. And then we turned him loose. But, you know, if you see a turtle upside down, you've got to turn it over. You're not just going to walk by or run over it. That's not a value I have. You help things that can't help themselves. That's a value that I personally have. So it doesn't do me any good to set objectives or goals in my business that are contradictory to my values. So your goals, your objectives in your business have to match with your vision and your mission and your values and the SWOT analysis. They have to be in alignment with those ideas. If you try to do something for the sake of money and your values are not money hungry, I know some people that do that. Everything's about money. If you're a family guy and you're giving up too much time at the office, then the objective does not match your values. Another thing is your goals or your objectives have to be set and created by the management, not by those who are working in the business consistently. You want somebody who can lay out the path that you're taking or the goals that you have for your business. You want them to have a grand view. You don't want them to be limited. I was thinking yesterday, or this last weekend, we were in Nashville. My wife and I had a quick getaway weekend, and we were in Nashville. We watched a horse pulling a cool little buggy, a little carriage thing, around the strip on Broadway in Nashville. And that horse, it had a huge motorcycle that went by, and it kind of jumped up a little bit, but it couldn't see it because it had blinders on. It couldn't see the peripheral. Now, the driver of the carriage, it could see the motorcycle coming, and it moved the horse away from the lane to protect it. That's management. Management is the person or the peoples who can see danger or that see a bigger view. The objectives of your business and the goals of your business have to be created at management level. But here's the thing. They can include broad categories. So your goals could include things like environmental issues. They don't have to be always about money. They could be employee focused. They could be community focused. They could be specific product or R&D launches or developments. They could be market saturation limitations. It could be market penetration issues. It could be creating your company to be a particular award-winning company. Whatever that objective is, you can set it out there. Now, the last thing I'm going to give you with goals or objectives is to write them down. Write them down. we've heard this saying, write it down, but Dr. Gail Matthews, she's a psychologist professor at the Dominican University in California, did a study on goal setting with 267 participants. And she found that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals just by writing them down. So just by writing things down, you're more likely. Now, you could also do some other things. You could tell people about it, makes your likelihood of achieving them even greater. But at this point, all I want you to do is write down the objectives that you have. What are the 3 top goals you have for your business? We've already gone through the SWOT analysis, and now we can lay down and say, we have 3 different things we want to try to achieve this next 36 months, or this next 5 years, or this next 2 years. Here are the 3 things. One of them are going to be financial. They're going to be smart. They're going to be specific, measurable, attributable, so we can give it to somebody, or assignable, timely. They're going to be the smart analysis, but we're going to write them down. Now, even though Dr. Matthews says writing them down, according to her study, creates a 42% more likely chance of achieving your goals, the reason why I'm going to tell you to write them down is because we have 3 more steps in the strategic planning process. And if you don't write down the goals, you can't go forward with the 3 extra steps. At the end of the process, you are going to have very clear, actionable steps to take to achieve your goals. And you're going to be able to measure the outcome. You can't know the future, but you're going to be able to measure the outcome of your strategic goals just by writing them down. So that's the step for today. And with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining me today. Hey, check out the Financially Simple blog. Look underneath the heading podcast, and you'll see today's episode. It'll have a couple of graphs on it, et cetera. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter. We have just over 4,000 people a month, or actually a week now, that get the newsletter. And some of the best writings I do, I give some episodes that maybe you haven't heard on in the podcast. I typically deal with a tax tip or a business tip. And I also deal with a specific personal finance issue. I think a couple weeks ago, they were dealing with 12 ways you can create a income stream for life. It was a great little series we did, but you get that in our newsletter. One last thing I'll ask you to do is, if you like the podcast, share it with a friend. We've got lots of people now starting to sign up and listen to us. I've gotten a lot of cool emails from people saying, hey, Justin, we like the way you teach. That one made my day. That actually, you get kind of tired after doing 80-something episodes about business, and all I really want to talk about many times is personal finance, but we're going to get there. We'll get there soon. Like I say every week, life is hard. Life is good. And life can be frustrating. It can. Money doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Hey, if you're starting your day today, go out and make it a great one.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.